We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam.
So,
who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football season, and all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL Podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Sam Monson. We're talking all things championship week plus my mock draft, Sam. We get to tear that thing apart sometime on the show, talk a little bit of draft. But first, you guys know all first-time depositors at Monkey Knife Fight to put at least $20 into their account while using the promo code PFF will receive a free PFF Edge annual subscription. That's $40 of value for just $20, and you get the opportunity to turn that 20 into even more money playing daily fantasy and prop games at one of the fastest-growing fantasy sports sites in the country. It's Monkey Knife Fight. So go to Monkey Knife Fight, deposit your $20, use the promo code PFF, and receive a free PFF Edge annual subscription today. So that's very timely because there's an NFL draft guide out there. We also have yet another promo code to use. We'll drop that in just a little bit as we talk about the draft. So let's start with championship week. We've got the Bucs hosting the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Packers-Bucs first game yesterday. Let's go, man. What are your thoughts on that one?
yeah, Tom Brady gets to another Super Bowl.
Super Bowl
Ain't
10.
no thing. Ain't no thing for Brady. Just rolls in again.
So 2 weeks we're going to do the Belichick versus Brady debate and the whole thing.
So we were keeping track of that throughout the season. You know, there was a little nip and tuck here and there, but now it's just Brady in a landslide again.
It's just funny because we always joke about don't overreact to week one. And in week one, Brady loses to the Saints. Belichick, new offense with Cam Newton, and they're 1-0, and everybody's like, well, there you go. 1-0, 0-1.
There was a few weeks into the season, I don't want to pick on Kevin Clark, friend of the show, but he wrote the league is negligent for having allowed Bill Belichick to steal Cam Newton for that kind of price, right?
Yeah.
And then, X number of weeks later, it's like Cam Newton sucks, the Patriots suck, everything's broken, blow it up, and oh, by the way, Tom Brady might be rolling into a Super Bowl in Tampa.
We had some Patriots talk on the PFF NFL Daily because there's other news going on. So we'll get into the games in a second. There's other news going on around the league, including Matthew Stafford, Lions quarterback, going to be out there on the open market. That was announced, Saturday. So that's the PFF NFL Daily today. So if you are a Patriots fan, Colts fan, Broncos fan, go listen to the Daily because we do break it down for potential suitors for Matthew Stafford and figuring out where he's actually going to become an upgrade. So as far as this game goes, first off, my Kevin King prediction.
Yeah.
I think that worked.
It did. And honestly, so I was watching this game and you think, poor Aaron Rodgers, right? Rodgers comes out of this game, has another phenomenal performance, made some absolutely beautiful throws. And I think ultimately Rodgers played well enough to win the game. And if it was just Rodgers,
of course,
they would be in the Super Bowl. And I was trying to sort of think, well, what is the difference between how come when Rodgers plays like that, they don't win and he's made it to one Super Bowl in his entire career, but when Brady plays like that, it's easy, they win, Brady goes to another Super Bowl and just keeps on trucking. And I think part of it is also the reason why when you look at the Green Bay offense throughout the season and you're like, it's too easy for them sometimes, but it seems to hit these walls or stumbles or never quite – there's never this permanent hammering and they keep going. I think part of it is I don't know that he targets a weakness the same way that
Rodgers?
Brady does. Yes. And one of the things I think that Brady is extremely good at, and some of these other quarterbacks, is when they find the weak link in your team, they're going to keep hitting it until you figure out how to stop that. And Kevin King in this game was the weak link. And he just got lit up from almost the very first play. Like, he gave up the touchdown to Mike Evans at the beginning. He gave up the deep bomb to Scotty Miller just before the half. He gave up some other plays as well. The key pass interference late in the game was Kevin King. And he actually had a couple of good plays in there as well. He made a really nice play on a quick screen or something to Godwin, tackle for a loss. He made a couple of good plays, but he was just lit up over the course of this game. And I don't know that if Rodgers had found a weakness on Tampa Bay's defense, if he'd have kept hammering that guy the same way. Whereas Brady and this offense, if you're going to keep putting Kevin King out there one-on-one with guys, he's going to keep throwing the ball in his direction and reaping the rewards.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's a really good point. And then you come down to, okay, there's going to be much debate at the end of the game, 3rd and 8, two things where Aaron Rodgers may have had a chance to scramble for the touchdown. It looked like it was wide open. Even the end zone replay looked like, man, he had an open shot at the end zone. I really thought Rodgers was going to use his legs a lot more because the Bucs were doing they were playing a lot of man. They were trying to press and affect the Packers receivers. And even if they were playing zone, they were so worried about the passing attack. If Rodgers stepped through the pocket, I thought he had a few more opportunities to run. So he turns down the opportunity to run, throws it back across his body on 3rd and 8. But I think at home we're all thinking, okay, it's 4th and 8 for the game, season on the line. And the Packers kicked the field goal. And it, by our numbers, only about a 3% difference in win probability because it's a long shot at that point. You need a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. But the decision to kick the field goal, one of the more curious ones, I'd say.
Yeah, which Rodgers made a point of saying that wasn't his call when he was asked about it in the press conference after.
Which is true. It's not his job.
Yeah.
To make that call.
I mean, yeah, he's presumably got some kind of influence on the decision, but sure, it wasn't his call. Honestly, I don't think that made a ton of difference, that decision to kick or go. We've, talked before about the margins involved in some of these calls. Sure, generally speaking, in a close decision, I would want the ball in the hands of Aaron Rodgers more than I would want the ball in the hands of my defense or any other element of the roster. But I don't think this wasn't the Mike Vrabel one from a few weeks ago where it's like, oh my God, how did you kick that ball? This wasn't a massive thing. I think you're right that the bigger part of that sequence was like, why did Rodgers throw the ball? He took off into open space. The two guys closest to stopping him were Ndamukong Suh chasing him down from behind and Jason Pierre-Paul coming from the side. Rodgers can probably outrun both those guys, at which point you've got quite a lot of open space in front of you. Everybody having to at least, cover guys on the goal line for a while. You've definitely got a good shot of scoring at that point.
Yeah, I think that
would have made it really interesting.
Yes. And then they got another 2-point conversion opportunity, which they had a drop in the end zone on the previous play. But I think, your question about how does, one quarterback always seem to win and win 33 or whatever playoff games versus Rodgers now 1-4 in NFC Championship games. It's not, again, quarterback record, there's many things that go into it, but you point back to a handful of plays during the game. I mean, the previous, there was a play earlier in the sequence. He's got Suh, he's kind of fighting him off. May have had an opportunity to put the ball on his receiver in the end zone and just misses him. It was a tough throw, but he kind of stepped it. It's a couple plays here and there that they ended up leaving on the table if you're the Packers.
We talked about this on the daily after the Saints loss, but does this start to damage Aaron Rodgers' legacy? That you said now 1-4 in NFC Championship games. This, in his defense, was the first one he's hosted in his career. So this is the first one he's actually got at home. And as much as they had some fans there, what was it, like 10,000? It wasn't, it wasn't a real home field advantage compared with what it would be normally in a given year. But this was like the first championship game that Rodgers has hosted and still wasn't a full sort of home field advantage. But now you get this guy who's had 3 of the greatest seasons of the last, since he came into the league, he's had 3 of the greatest seasons we've ever seen, but has 1 ring and has only got to the Super Bowl once, while Brady racks up 10 of them.
I do think it damages the legacy a little bit, but it's not because people are going to look back and say, well, on January 24th, 2021, Rodgers played a poor game and couldn't make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, it damages the legacy because people point to record first, and then, well, he's 1-4 in championship games. So yeah, that'll probably hurt a little bit. But again, he played well. He played well overall, but the timing of things. So Brady played great in the first half. All of a sudden, interceptions galore in the second half. So the Bucs did a poor job of actually trying to running away with it. They were up 28-10, and they just could not pull away from the Packers. But Rodgers also had the interception at the end of the half that put together that whole sequence where the Bucs ended up, scoring late, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. But I think all that stuff adds up to the whole, it's a few plays you're gonna point back to and say, okay, Rodgers could have been better on these few plays. But overall, to your point, he absolutely played well enough to win. There was a point in this game too where it's like both quarterbacks just making ridiculous plays. Yeah. Third down, if you not that you take out the turnovers, but halfway, 3/4 of the way through the game, it was like a legit throw for throw shootout, Brady versus Rodgers, and then a few mistakes mixed in there.
Yeah, and it felt like Rodgers was getting the better of that one-on-one matchup. Brady was putting the ball in harm's way more than Rodgers was, which is obviously not only a facet of both the different offenses, like Tom Brady's is more aggressive, more gung-ho, more gunslinger-y, but also throughout their careers. Like Aaron Rodgers has been the more risk-averse of the two quarterbacks. Brady's occasionally put the ball in harm's way a lot more than Rodgers has. So that kind of made sense. And then Brady was just getting the bounce of the ball on some of those. Like the first heave in the general direction of Godwin goes up, takes the ball away from the safety. Like almost Brady was getting away with more.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird, some of the plays. When you're the Bucs again, it's the Bruce Arians system, right? The first 3rd and short all week, I was like, man, they gotta have some better answers here. Can you run a 5-yard route on 3rd and 3? That's where you should attack. Brady goes over the top to Evans on the very first one. They did not change at all. 3rd and shorts, and they are still chucking it deep and trying to make big plays. And Brady ends up with about 5 big time throws, couple turnover worthy in there as well. But it was the big time throws that were essentially the difference. The field flippers, Sam, the ones that were you creating those huge chunk plays, that was also part of the difference. So even though there was some volatility, I think, to Brady's game yesterday, it's when you're picking up 30 and 40 yards in chunks and making those big plays, that's what's leading to putting points on the board. Even though the Bucs didn't do a great job of, after they got to 28, they stalled out a little bit.
And it was a big game from Chris Godwin, who had been letting them down for the playoffs so far. This is a great reason why you don't overreact to drops, right? Drops are not good.
Slant first, but even before the big jump off.
Right, but also the two playoff games before this. Like Godwin had been dropping everything coming in his direction. Like at some point, Chris Godwin is going to stop dropping the football.
Right.
He had, I think, 6 drops coming into this game, which is more than he'd had in like full seasons before that. Maybe you're like, that can't continue. Chris Godwin is too good.
Get 5 against the football team.
For that to be a problem throughout the entire playoffs, then you're right, had a drop, and then Chris Godwin shows up, like the real one. And when that happens, you have a phenomenal weapon. Like that covers over the fact that you don't have an Antonio Brown out there. And finally happened. Like they had been waiting for Chris Godwin to arrive, and here it was in the NFC Championship game.
And I think that goes back to the Bucs and their weapons, man. I just think that the fact that they have all these different solutions to what you throw at them, and Scotty Miller always seems to get that one deep ball, right? But this has been the story of the Bucs. Cameron Brate was their top target coming in, as far as the playoffs go. Rob Gronkowski pretty much just what wasn't needed other than a 29-yard screen pass. But Godwin's the guy who goes for over 100 yards. Mike Evans was the guy early on that they were finding. Scotty Miller has the 39-yard touchdown before the half, and that's where I want to go because this was, especially when you look back, like this was the absolute turning point in the game, right? So this was 3rd and 3, and I had mentioned I got to apologize to Bruce Arians here. I thought I joked the last couple of weeks, Bruce is he's gonna throw a red flag when he shouldn't, and he's gonna be too conservative. And yeah, they were doing a lot of the early down running again in this game. But the biggest decision of the game is Bruce Arians on 4th and 3 late in the first half decides to go for it. And Brady was shocked too. Brady was on the sideline with his jacket on.
Yeah,
they were like,
the offense had come ashore.
Tom, get out there. We're going to go for it on 4th down. He was shocked as well. And the risk here was there was like 13 seconds left, whatever it was. And if you don't get it, Rodgers is a seam route away from being in field goal range. But the Bucs were aggressive there. They said, we're going to put points on the board. And it seemed like, okay, they convert 4th and 4, it was. They convert 4th and 4, and then it's like, okay, now you've got a chance for a field goal. You have a chance to get out of the half and steal 3 points. You go quick out, get to the sideline. You had 8 seconds. They had 8 seconds left. And, of course, Sam, everybody had flashbacks to the 1998 Jaguars.
Of course.
Mark Brunell to Jimmy Smith against.
You're like the only human being. It didn't even occur to Jimmy Smith watching this game.
No, he remembers.
No, not at all. You're the only human being in the world.
I had a tweet fired up.
Made
I
that connection.
I had that play tweeted out a couple of years ago.
Like, watching this, Jimmy Smith stumble across your timeline. It's like, oh, yeah, that is kind of like what happened to us back in, what was it, 97?
1998. I mean, technically it happened in 1999. By the way, I got to get something off my chest.
Oh, God.
When we use year, I think by default you go to the NFL season.
Yes.
Right? So, like, this year's Super Bowl is the 2020 Super Bowl.
Yes.
Right? So if I go back and I say Tom Brady has played in the Super Bowl in the 2014, 16, 18,
It
20.
is awkward the way those seasons roll over into the next year.
Now, the NBA, you go with the second season because they split most of the year happens in the second season.
Soccer is even more awkward. They call both of them. So it's the 2020-2021 season.
Yeah, the NBA does that a little bit, but if you're going to pick a number, a year, you go with the
That's
new
just
one.
obnoxious.
We're in the 2021 NBA season. It's the 2020 NFL season.
Yeah.
So Brunell to Jimmy Smith was 1998.
Okay. All I'm saying is you're the only human being in the world that made that connection. Like,
anyway.
Even those two guys didn't think of that when they were watching
remember.
this game. They might remember, but like they didn't make the connection between that play and what they did 20-plus years ago.
Never forget that one. Anyway, Brady to Scotty Miller gets behind the defense, gets behind Kevin King.
Kevin King, yeah.
Yes.
So I was saying this to you
catch.
before we went live, right? Great throw and catch, hideous play by Kevin King. On the other hand, what the hell are you doing putting Kevin King on an island in man coverage deep down the field against Scotty Miller? Kevin King is a long, tall, slow cornerback.
He's fast, though.
No.
Plays slow.
Going up against Scotty Miller, who's like a designated deep threat and a short, quick guy in a straight line. That's a bad mismatch anyway, let alone at the end of a half where like the only thing you can't give up is this. And that's exactly what you exposed him to allow to give up. The 2 points I want to make. First, the Tampa Bay defense ran the game plan that we sort of said that they're best at running, right? They got more aggressive. They found a way of actually getting after Aaron Rodgers and causing him some problems. And the reason that this was even an option, this drive that they executed just before the half, was because they got to Aaron Rodgers again, sacked him, got the ball back. Tom Brady then got to execute that. And then the other thing is the thing we were saying coming into the game of, look, all the running on first down for the Bucs is generally bad. It's not the most efficient way of playing football. On the other hand, all of that air it out on third down stuff makes them uniquely well suited to mitigating that or to taking advantage of the situations that it puts them in. So they only face 1 3rd and long. Remember the preview podcast, we ran through their 3rd and long numbers, and they're the best in the NFL at it. They only had 1 3rd and like 10 plus, but on 3rd and 7 plus, Tom Brady was 5 of 7 for 111 yards and a touchdown, 16 yards per attempt, right? This offense is uniquely qualified to take advantage of being put in those crappy situations. So sure, if you're Bruce Arians, it's not the most efficient way of running offense. On the other hand, it does play to your strengths.
You also get a random 20-yard freak play by Leonard Fournette on first down as well. After
playoff Lenny.
Yes, they had just gone 2 or 3 yards a pop, and Fournette just breaks it out for the 20-yard touchdown run.
That's a great example, by the way, of hidden negatives for a cornerback, right? You're going to look at this game and you'll be like, Jair Alexander, great coverage guy, shuts down Mike Evans, does a phenomenal job. Jair Alexander was one of the guys that got absolutely wrecked on the edge, blue contained for that Lenny touchdown. So Jair Alexander's coverage numbers will not show a touchdown, or will not show one touchdown, but he basically gave one up on the ground by letting Lenny get to the sideline and break another tackle and score.
So you mentioned the Bucs and the pressure that they got. Their two best pass rushers, clearly Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. So they combined for 12 out of 21 pressures that players on the Bucs just picked up. Not plays, but just total, because you can have multiple on one play. Mm-hmm. So 12 out of the 21 total pressures that the Bucs accumulated. David Bakhtiari not being there at left tackle, I think this was maybe the first time it actually came back to bite a little bit. Not having probably the best pass protecting left tackle, both tackles for the Packers, Billy Turner and Rick Wagner, both struggled a little bit. And struggling is, giving it up a couple times per game. And those ended up becoming huge plays. And I would say that is also one of the slight differences. While Aaron Rodgers threw the ball extremely well, the first sack was kind of him, holding the ball a little bit. He took 5 sacks in this game. And when you use EPA and you use, actual play value, a sack ends up becoming such a negative play for the drive. So while he only had the 1 turnover, 5 sacks ended up slowing a whole bunch of drives for the Packers.
Usually when you get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, he's a good enough athlete to escape it and make plays anyway. The Bucs were able to, when they got pressure with those guys, they tended to get home. Like, there were a couple of plays where, Wagner was beaten around the edge, and Shaq Barrett did a really good job of not just beating him, but the thing that Brandon Graham never does, which is why you owe me lunch. He gets around the corner and then keeps turning and just manages to keep turning that corner and get something on Rodgers. There were a couple of plays where he won, and you're like, okay, that's pressure, and that's actually a really good job of finishing that play. And okay, you didn't necessarily get the sack, but you at least continue to keep coming at Rodgers and force him to get rid of it right then and there, not just move off his spot and still make a play.
Yeah, that's gonna be the same discussion when we talk about the Bucs against Mahomes. We've talked a lot about how some teams are afraid to rush Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson, or guys that can break the pocket. And it's one of those, if you're going to win and you are going to go after them, you got to win quickly and get there.
It's like the Josh Allen discussion that we'll have later. It's a high-risk strategy, but it might still be the best one. If you're going to win a game like this, particularly in games where you're an underdog, if you're going to win a game like that, sometimes you have to employ the high-risk strategy because it's the high-risk one is the one that tends to pay off big, right? You're not going to win by playing the margins, because the margins say that they're a better team than you and they'll win that way. If you're going to overcome the fact that you're an underdog, you probably need to take some bigger chances and hope that they pay off in your direction.
And that's where, again, Arians going for it on 4th and 3, the biggest decision of the game. That and LaFleur not going for it on 4th and 8, the two biggest decisions in the game. One of them paid off, one of them didn't. And the other, the Arians going for it on 4th and 3. The Bucs go into the half, they're up 21-10. Packers come out getting the ball. So this was the other huge sequence in the game. Jordan Whitehead, who knocked himself out of the game with a huge hit, forced 2 fumbles on Aaron Jones in this one. One, everybody forgot about because the ball just landed along the sideline. Right. And this is, again, it's like, do you remember Aaron Jones fumbling? No, a teammate picked it up. The second one, though, was huge. And the Bucs did a really nice job. It's one of those plays where it looks like this wide open, shallow cross, and Jordan Whitehead, they're playing it. They're keeping everything underneath, and they're like, hey, you got to come up and tackle. And that is one thing the Bucs defense has done a really good job. They did a great job with the Saints, keeping the ball in front and coming up and making tackles and hitting hard because they fly to the football. Jordan Whitehead forces the fumble on Aaron Jones, and the Bucs go up 28-10 on the next play. And so even though the Bucs offense couldn't get anything going in the second half, they built up, that 18-point lead that proved insurmountable for the Packers.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's defense really did show up in a big way. You wouldn't necessarily think it because if you look at the score, but their defense was a big difference maker compared with some previous games they've had where they haven't been that good. And I think that's a testament to how well Aaron Rodgers played in this game, that despite Tampa Bay making all those plays, Green Bay put up that kind of points total and, had a shot at winning at the end.
Yeah, Sean Murphy-Bunting had that interception I talked about. He was in a tough spot, man. He had to try to cover Devontae Adams in the slot for much of the game. That's a part of it too, right? It's like you could play well defensively, but if you're going up against Rodgers and, pretty good Packers receivers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, another guy that we said ignore the drops a little bit because he's, around for a 50-yarder every now and again.
He had a really nice game.
Yeah, he had a real nice game. The Bucs defense, it comes down to the last couple weeks. They're forcing turnovers, making some huge plays. Again, I don't know if they'll be able to do that against the Chiefs. They're going to need more of that, but got to give them credit.
By the way, as much as Tom Brady threw the ball up for grabs a few times in this game, if your takeaway last week was Tom Brady's wash, this was just two old men slugging it out. This was like the example. This was the proof that you were just full of it and you hadn't watched Tom Brady for a decent period of time. Like, Tom Brady just had a bad game last week, didn't look great. Tom Brady, other than that game, has looked really good for most of the season. This was Tom Brady looking really good for most of this game, and then occasionally throwing the ball up for grabs.
Yeah, right. Like there were definitely some bad decisions in there. He also had a good deep ball to Mike Evans that was dropped.
Yep. Seam
route to Tyler Johnson that was dropped, and the slant that you mentioned to Chris Godwin. So there was plays that didn't show up for him as well. 4 total drops, I think, for the Bucs. Again, the Bucs offense though is so boom or bust, Sam. There was a point in the game where they pretty much had 4 big plays, and everything else was nothing. And that's
this offense. It's the Bruce Arians system.
It feels like such a low percentage play, and it puts so much pressure on the quarterback and the receiver. Yeah. It puts so much pressure on them to execute play, that's why the huge plays.
I think that's why you don't see this system pay off with. They don't create the dynasty. They don't create a system that's like this team is going to be dominant for the next 8 years. They create the one year where it comes together, and you get the 2015 Carson Palmer Arizona run until Palmer wrecks his thumb and has a playoff nightmare. But that's the year, right, where suddenly it all comes together, and you get the quarterback that just clicks. And he's making all those big throws down the field, and he's not throwing the ball in harm's way. Brady was able to do that right out of the gate, right? Come in, not have the 40 turnover-worthy plays in year one, have 12 or whatever it was in the regular season, and be able to execute that to a degree where he's already making this a championship caliber system just by being himself within this. So it is a high risk, low percentage offense and system, but Brady appears to be uniquely qualified to handle that in year one and make the best out of it.
It would have been fascinating to see Brady in this offense
all the time for 10 years,
for a longer period of time. It helps having the playmakers though too. It's not just the offense; it's the offense with multiple dudes to throw to.
It's interesting. There's some sort of, I don't know if it's revisionist history, but I tweeted last night that Brady's been in the NFC a few months. Drew Brees got there in 2006. Aaron Rodgers got there in 2005, and Brady has the same number of NFC championships as they do. And everyone's like, well, he handpicked his team, went to this loaded roster. And well, okay, yes, he deliberately went and picked the best option for him, which is kind of what you would expect a quarterback to do, right? Peyton Manning didn't go to Denver because he thought Denver sucked. He went to Denver because he thought they were a good spot.
Supposedly only 2 teams are interested in Brady anyway.
Whatever. He went to a team that he thought had a good shot at winning a Super Bowl, and that's not a bad thing. On the other hand, he went to a team where you probably weren't going to be the best team in your division, let alone the conference. He went to a division with the New Orleans Saints in it. So, okay, yes, you hand-selected a team that had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and O.J. Howard before he got injured. You brought Gronk along for the ride. You got Antonio Brown in off the street. They drafted Tristan Wirfs. These are a bunch of things that happened after he arrived. And you knew going in there that you were going to have to knock off the New Orleans Saints somewhere along the way, and that wasn't going to be easy. So I think people are starting to rewrite a little bit the way that happened. Brady didn't go to they went 7-9 last year. This was not a team that was this was not a juggernaut Super Bowl team just waiting for a quarterback to step in there and lead them one hurdle further along.
Right. There were rumors that he wanted to go to the Saints, and then Breeze was like, wait, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And now then you might be able to make that argument a little bit. The Saints the best all-around team in the NFC the last 4
yes,
years.
and I think the best roster in the NFC this year. Like
Right.
the Saints, if he had wound up just jumping onto the Saints and leading them the extra hurdle that Drew Brees hasn't been able to get them through the last few years, I think that would be a valid argument. But when you're saying, oh, of course they're going to the Super Bowl, look at the roster he jumped onto, I think that's pretty weak.
Really quick, though, we saw yesterday, there's far more than just the quarterback here. But if your whole shtick is to try to discredit Brady's like 21 years of excellence, like find something new to do. It's not 21 years of luck or whatever with Brady. It's ridiculous. There's a reason why they've gotten to so many Super Bowls. And yeah, you're going to lose some games along the way and have some bounces go your way, but you make your own luck as well.
This is why I think there is something at stake for Brady. Like, he is the greatest of all time. I think that legacy is secure, whatever happened this year. But there's still something to play for, because this propels him into this different level where he can go, I left Bill Belichick and the environment in New England. I went to a different team that was 7-9 the year before and was not like an obvious Super Bowl contender without me, and I took them immediately to a Super Bowl. And if you think that's easy, in the NFC, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers have been plugging away for 15 years apiece, and they've each only done it once.
Right.
I rolled in there at 43 years old and did it the first time of asking.
And they had to win 3 road games along the way,
right,
to now earn a home Super Bowl, first team to ever
wild
be at
card
home.
route the whole way. Like, if Dan Marino spent his entire career, got to one Super Bowl and didn't win it. Like, it is not easy to win the volume of games that Brady and his teams have won in the postseason, and for him to keep doing that in a new environment is significant.
Bottom line for Brady yesterday, though, the Scotty Miller throw at the end of the half, Mike Evans touchdown, there were some huge throws that he made in there to go along with the few interceptions. And here's why the legacy, let's get into Chiefs-Bills. Here's why the Brady legacy thing is fascinating.
Because Mahomes is coming.
Because Mahomes is the guy that, 10 years from now, is Mahomes better than Brady? And you know how people's memories are. Mahomes will make 2 great throws, and he's called the GOAT. And, but if anybody's going to challenge, it seems like winning 6 Super Bowls is this ridiculous, insurmountable thing. If Mahomes, if the Chiefs win this one, if
he has 2 at the age of 25
yeah.
and 3 straight AFC championship games, like, he's coming. Like, that legacy might not last as long as you think it will.
So this matchup is incredible. Well, everybody's going to be talking about it, of course, for 2 weeks. It's the Super Bowl, but it's Brady versus Mahomes. I know Tony Romo gets on your nerves a little bit, but Jordan versus LeBron is a pretty good
versus LeBron.
My buddy texted me. He's a wrestling fan. He said it's Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. You've got the greatest old guy against the greatest young guy. There's so many comparisons here. Is it Flair Michaels or is it Jordan LeBron? Anyway, if Brady's going to hold on to this legacy, at some point people are going to start counting rings. And if he's got 7 and Mahomes is only 1 through 3 years instead of 6 to 2, this is big. Of course it's a huge game. Plus the whole hey, I left the trust tree, the nest, the Belichick nest, and did it on my own.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Mahomes being on the horizon as a dynasty in the making is another reason that the Brady thing is significant. You need to be propelling yourself from like the greatest of all time to the greatest of all time with mythological burnishing at the end is significant, because the greatest of all time thing might become under threat in the next 10 years by Mahomes with his dynasty on the making. Dynasty, whatever.
Dynasty. Yeah,
I'm not confused which way it is. I'm like lost in the transatlantic.
Not
ether.
dynasty.
Okay. Like Mahomes, if he does get a second one after 3 years, for as impressive as it is for Brady to get to 10, win 6, win 7, like they left a lot on the table as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They had a bunch that they could have won. And if Mahomes wins the ones that were on the table, like, okay, he's already not blown, but missed an opportunity of an AFC championship game. But if he wins those and has just a better strike rate of the ones that were there to be taken, that could very quickly close a gap between the two of them.
Yeah, I know that Brady won Super Bowls with like a kick here and there. Like, you could do this both ways, but they're literally a handful of plays away from 9, and now he's going for being a handful of plays away from 10 potentially. Yeah. So yes, if those few plays go Mahomes' way, maybe it's not that crazy that Mahomes is going to get 4, 5, 6 Super Bowls. So this is going to be huge. Before we get to Bills Chiefs, let's wrap it up with Aaron Rodgers and his comments after the game. It seemed, I think most viewers are like, all right, we're on to the AFC. But of course, Packers fans or Packers beat writers have to cover the Packers. And it sounded like so many people, their takeaway was that Aaron Rodgers sounded like a guy that really doesn't know if he's going to be back in Green Bay next year.
Yeah, but I think I think you have to interpret that differently from Rodgers is on the way out automatically. Like Rodgers, they drafted his replacement last spring, at which point there was going to be uncertainty as to his future until the point where he and Green Bay part ways. How could there not be? Like, okay, your situation is probably more secure coming off an MVP season than it was heading into the MVP season. But if you're Rodgers, they drafted your replacement. You haven't been told, hey, you have 3 years here and then we're going to make a switch. All you know is I've just lost an NFC championship game. The dude that's taking my job sometime in the future is sitting here. I honestly have no idea what the future holds.
So you think it's just player speak? Like, hey, my job's on the line every year. That's
no,
football.
I think I don't even think it's player speak. I think he's just lending voice to the bloody obvious. Like, his replacement is sitting there on the bench. He's not going away. Therefore, my position here is not, I don't know what it's going to be in the future. I don't know if I'm out of here this year. I don't know if I'm out of here next year or when this happens. I don't think him speaking that into existence changes the reality of it.
I think they were reading the tone a little bit too. I mean, look, the dude's frustrated.
The tone is he just lost an NFC championship game. He's now 1-4. Of course he's not like, yeah, everything's going great. I'm going to come back and take another swing. Like, he's pissed off. I
mean, there's no way Jordan Love, who wasn't even the backup this year,
right,
is the guy that Matt LaFleur is going to be like, yeah, let's do it. Jordan Love time. Now, a year from now, depending on what happens, could be decision time with the Packers and Rodgers. And I think once Jordan Love was drafted, that felt like, even from a contract standpoint, like Rodgers probably isn't going anywhere this year. Makes for a fun story, though, to have all the top quarterbacks in the NFC North on the move. Rodgers, Stafford, and Trubisky all moving on this offseason. Kirk's locked in. All right, let's go to the AFC game. 38-24 Chiefs. Even when they were down 9, it's just the Chiefs, and they feel like they're in control of this thing, right?
How insane is it, though, that they were down 9? Like, down 9, you think back to a year ago and the number of playoff games that went in a strange way because of the bounces of the ball early. Mecole Hardman drops the punt. Buffalo capitalizes. Now you're 9 up. You're like, okay, this thing's actually bouncing Buffalo's way. But you forget that the worst possible place to put the Kansas City Chiefs is in a multiple score hole right off the bat. And then Kansas City just does what they do. And it was like 9-0 Buffalo and then a 38-6 run for the Chiefs. And then, at that point it's game over. Forget about it.
Buffalo had only lost the Hail Murray game since like October, right?
Yeah.
And they had been the best all-around team. They looked good, all phases. Everything was great. And Kansas City just blew right by them. But this was another game where Kansas City offensively took everything that was there underneath, and it was death by a million deep quick outs, right? I mean, it's quick out after quick out after quick out. And that is a couple years of Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce just instilling fear in opposing defenses. Mahomes didn't even complete a pass beyond 20 yards. But he didn't need to because the Chiefs took everything underneath. But could they still create big plays? Yes. You have a Mecole Hardman 50-yard run, the end around, and then Tyreek Hill. It's like, Sean McDermott said second half we're gonna play more aggressive. We have to come up and challenge them a little bit. Okay, Tyreek Hill and press. I mean, it really is a cheat code. Like, you can't get away with just covering them one-on-one every now and again. A 71-yard slant to Tyreek Hill.
I am more in awe over what Tyreek Hill can do on a football field than any player in the NFL right now. He is uncoverable, and he is terrifying in every possible scenario. There are players out there where you're like, okay, this guy is terrifying doing one specific thing, but outside of that, he's normal. He's mortal. He's human, right? If I can just take away this deep play, which is not easy, this is what he's good at, but if I can just take this away, it's okay. Tyreek Hill can murder you in every possible capacity on the field. He can destroy you over the top with that deep speed. He can kill you on the quick stuff. We said last week, if you just ran the Cole Beasley route tree, there would never be a guy within 5 yards in him. He can catch a quick out and then make a dude like Tre'Davious White look like he's just standing there in quicksand, run right around the outside of him, start scampering down the sideline. He is terrifyingly uncoverable. There's nothing you can do. Tre'Davious White is Buffalo's best cover guy by a mile. And there's like a low-light reel that would be a season's worth of horrendous plays by him just against Tyreek Hill, just from this game. I was tweeting them out as they were happening, and a bunch of them he wasn't even punished for. Like the first one, absolutely destroyed off the line, and only because Tyreek Hill is running back into his leverage
on the deep
does
cross.
He get even close. Tyreek Hill drops the ball.
Mahomes' best throw of the day.
Late in the game, they're just running the ball up the middle, and Tyreek Hill just like mocks him by a release off the line, makes him fall over. He's not even running a route. He's just like taking White out of the run play, just running him off the line of scrimmage. And Tre'Davious White's face first in the turf trying to cover this guy. It is amazing how, and this isn't to hammer Tre'Davious White. There are plays generally where this happens and he isn't punished, and that's kind of why his PFF grade is often worse than his reputation. But that's not my point here. My point is that he is a good cover guy who Tyreek Hill made look like you or I out there, and that is terrifying.
Yeah, if you were to pick the top corners who at least have a shot against Tyreek Hill, Tre'Davious White's probably in the top 5.
Yeah.
I would say I think Denzel Ward has a shot, like skill set wise. I think Jair Alexander would have been a really nice matchup. I don't know what Jalen. We've seen Tyreek crush Jalen Ramsey as well when they've been one-on-one. I mean, there's not too many guys. I mean, nobody can really cover him, as to your point. But yeah, if Tyreek Hill was just a slot receiver, he'd go off for 120 catches a year if they just wanted to use him in that way. If they just wanted to use him as an outside wide receiver, he'd average 20 per catch and just, be unstoppable. I also think the quick out thing, this is what makes the Chiefs so dangerous, right? You have to play off on Tyreek Hill. You're afraid of him. So you take all those quick outs that are there. Tyreek has earned those. It's like a free 8 to 10 yards every single time. Just like there was a point where like RG3 when he first came in, or Lamar, where there's easy throws in the offense. Well, it's kind of because of their skill set, because they were good. RG3 in year 1 was a good runner, but because Lamar's a good runner, he gets easy throws, right? You've earned that. I remember Wes Welker used to always have 10 catches per game. Well, it's not just because he's not just like padding his stats. It's because he's good at catching screens and doing something with it. So he's earned 10 free catches, so to speak. Tyreek has earned easy plays, easy catches, because you're so afraid of him. And the thing that makes the Chiefs dangerous is they're willing to take them. So Mahomes has one big-time throw early. Tyreek drops it, doesn't complete another pass beyond 20 yards, but they take all the underneath stuff, and it's just, how do you cover Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? They did all the damage, and the Bills had no answers.
Yeah, so this game is like a two-part story. The first one is that the Kansas City Chiefs stars showed up and had big games, and when that happens, they are extremely difficult to beat. Mahomes played well. Travis Kelce was incredible. Tyreek Hill, as we just said, absolutely wrecked Tre'Davious White and the rest of the Buffalo defense. When that happens, the Chiefs are going to put up points, and they're going to be really difficult to stop. The other side of this is that I think the Kansas City Chiefs completely outcoached Buffalo. And again, this is not to rag on Buffalo. Like coming into the game, I think the story was that these were two very, very similar teams, and you might give an edge to the Chiefs almost across the board, but Buffalo had the same things working for them in that they had been a very well-coached team that had schemed up well against pretty much everybody, but they didn't have the answers against Kansas City, and Kansas City made adjustments and just won across the board schematically. And they were able to cause Josh Allen and the Bills offense all kinds of problems on defense. Spags dialed up a lot of stuff. And then, as you said, on offense, they made the adjustments to take all the short stuff and to take advantage of the fact that Buffalo was going to invite them to take that by doing it and being just so efficient that it didn't matter.
Yeah, so I like this stat right here. Targets past the sticks. And look, football's not as simple as throw the ball past the sticks a lot more often, right? It's not that simple.
Unless you're Bruce Arians.
So Mahomes only had 10 attempts. He went 7 for 10, 107 yards. What the Chiefs have done under Spags is taken the first down marker and just made it really difficult to complete passes beyond it. And I love the way they do it. We'll talk about my mock draft in a minute, but I gave them, in my mock draft, Elijah Molden from Washington, who's another one of these like hybrid corner safety types, plays the slot really, really well. I love the way Kansas City has built that defense with guys like that. With Tyrann Mathieu, you just see him patrolling the intermediate, short and intermediate middle of the field a lot. Juan Thornhill, even Sorensen, who's kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid, right? I mean, it's a whole bunch of hybrid players that Kansas City has turned into just, on paper, they're not great, but like a reasonable pass defense. So Josh Allen was 8 for 18 on passes beyond the sticks. And I think there was a few in there in the fourth quarter as the Chiefs softened up a little bit. So it was just making those passes far more difficult. 2 turnover-worthy plays, 8 for 18 on those plays. And I'm going to take out the fourth quarter in a minute here just to get a better number, but that is what the Chiefs defense has done over these last 2 years.
It's also incredible how much better your personnel can look when you come with the right game plan and put them in positions to succeed. So one of the biggest differentiators between Spags and his predecessor is that Spags is extremely good, I think, at game planning, right? That they came in, or he developed the sort of Bill Belichickian approach to this defense. So previously, it was like, we run man coverage, and that's what we do. And if you are good enough to beat our fairly pedestrian personnel in man coverage, we get lit up and lose the game. And that was the difference between them when Patrick Mahomes first arrived and them now, is that their defense actually holds up its end of the bargain now, because they're not just coming in and saying, we run man coverage. You know that. We know that. And if you can beat it, you win. They are coming in and they are game planning. And now if you're Buffalo coming into this game, you don't really know what they're going to do, and you don't know necessarily how to approach it. So they come in and they have a specific game plan that caused Buffalo some problems. And okay, you can look on paper and say they've got some weak links in the secondary that we can attack, but we can't dial in on them because they're sending the blitz all the time, and they're sending it from the right places. So Josh Allen can't just turn around this one guy, escape into the flat, and make some plays. They're penning him into the pocket with the blitz and trapping him there, and he can't just dial in on the one weak link in the secondary and go after that guy. So we said, again, heading into this game, why are teams still blitzing Josh Allen? Because he's been carving up the blitz recently, and is this just a lag effect from them not working out that he's now really good? And this is why, because you can still cause him some problems with the blitz, particularly if you design them well. And every now and again, you're going to get that one play where Josh Allen tries to make too much happen and takes like a 15-yard sack.
Oh, man. The sacks, we'll talk about that in a second. Allen against the blitz, 42.7 grade yesterday.
And they blitzed him 19 times.
Yes,
they came after him relentlessly.
10 for 19, 88 yards. Did have a TD in there. I don't know if that was the one that was late, but 4.6 yards per attempt. Early on, I thought, Allen looked comfortable. The Bills looked like their offense. There was a point where he just started to play a little bit slower, right? And I think that's where you credit Kansas City. All the points that you're making, extremely valid. There was a lot of plays where Allen had like the pass to the flat open early, but he just hesitated and he was, I feel like I want to get something better, and it wasn't there, and then he'd throw it to the flat later. There was just a lot of plays where he was a tick slow, where he had played so fast for the majority of the season. That was one of the biggest ways that he had improved, was knowing where he was going with the ball, being more decisive. The Chiefs, just a really good job of making him indecisive. And that's going to be one of the stories, when Brady was just chucking it up, it was unblocked rushers, and it was, blitz answers that you've talked about all season. That's going to be one of the stories of the Super Bowl, because the Chiefs in the first matchup came after Brady, and the strategy is just make them make a quick decision. There could be a big play on the other end of it, but the margin of error is a little bit tighter because it's got to happen quicker and quicker. I thought the Chiefs did a great job of that. The sacks that you mentioned, Allen lost 53 yards on sacks. Now, the last one was like 18 yards because Allen leads the league in plays in which he tries to stiff arm a 300-pounder and still make a throw.
Yeah.
This one didn't pay off. But there was one early in the game, too, that just knocked them way back in field goal range.
I'm kind of amazed that they blew that up and didn't let him play that out.
Yeah.
Like, kind of one of the points of being Josh Allen is that you can stiff arm a 300-pound guy for like 5 seconds and still find a way of getting rid of the ball. He wasn't like, it's not like he was stuffed and moving backwards and there was no way out of that. He kind of had a shot. I think you have to let him play that out and see how it goes. And if he gets hurt on that play, that's kind of the trade-off for for doing that. I think if that was your standard of like that's the play you blow up, the helmet catch would never have happened. Like Eli Manning would have been blown dead in the grasp, game over.
Well, maybe it should have been.
Yes, I was surprised they blew that up and didn't let Josh Allen try and fight his way out of that. But the point is, that's one of the reasons that you keep blitzing Josh Allen, even though generally he's been doing a really good job against the blitz, because every now and again he has a tendency to do that, to try and do a little bit too much, and when it doesn't work, you get not just a big play, you get a huge play out of it on defense.
Yeah, I mean, so I thought taking the Bills out of their rhythm was huge. Allen still ended up having 88 yards on the ground on 7 carries. He did have a couple big runs that helped keep the Bills in it. But yeah, the negative plays and just not being able to get Stephon Diggs into the mix until he had like a late 34-yarder, right? I mean, that was huge too, because all year we talked about, hey, you got Cole Beasley, you got Stephon Diggs, you have all these guys, but man, Diggs was the go-to guy. On third down, inside the pocket, scramble drill, whatever it was, if all else was failing, you could trust Josh Allen one of two things. He's going to either try to do something with his legs to add value or find Stephon Diggs. And again, the Chiefs did a really nice job of just taking that away. I mean, is that the story of the game? Like, the Chiefs want to feed Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? No resistance. 22 catches, 172 for Tyreek, 118
but it's
for Kelce.
It's a different approach on defense, right? It's like Buffalo played a little bit soft the way they did. So the first matchup, Buffalo backed everybody else off and invited Kansas City to run. This matchup, they kind of did the same thing, except instead of running the ball, the Chiefs just went with a million short passes and let athletes win after the catch. So Buffalo essentially played passive to try and force the Chiefs to not execute well enough so that they would win. They tried, the way they did against Baltimore, it's like, if we just come up with a couple of key third down stops every now and again, this is how we win. And by the way, one of the biggest things was Patrick Mahomes coming into this game, forget the concussion stuff, but with turf toe, didn't look unlike Patrick Mahomes at all. Didn't look like it affected him one iota.
Did not look like an issue at all.
You could see a limp. Like, you could see that he wasn't walking 100% and that he was favoring that foot. But you wouldn't have known that he was in any way, shape, or form injured from the way he played. And I suspect that kind of took Buffalo by surprise a little bit, because this game plan, not only did it make sense anyway, but it's kind of the one you would run if you think that Mahomes is going to be a little bit more inaccurate than normal, because every time he puts his foot in the ground, he's stamping on the turf toe. So that wasn't a factor, and that was probably a big part of this game. But whereas Buffalo was really passive, the Chiefs went to the other end of the spectrum, and they went, okay, how do we cover Stephon Diggs? We can't. So we're just not going to let you find him. We're going to come after you with blitzers, and you're going to have to get the ball out quicker than that. And there was a bunch of plays where, like, the ball just needed to come out faster than Allen could wait for Diggs to uncover.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a smart thing. Like, we don't have the horses on the back end to cover this array of weaponry, so we're going to make sure you don't have the time to find them anyway.
So one big thing that came out of this, Eric Fisher, starting left tackle for the Chiefs, goes down with an Achilles injury. It was after the game was decided, but for the Super Bowl, that's going to be important. They had to flip Mike Remmers, who's already
their offensive line now.
Yeah, it's all backups. But I think, again, the offensive line just has to not get crushed. Now, that could hurt Remmers at left tackle in the Super Bowl, and backups across the board. But man, Mahomes is one of the best. Mahomes gets compared to Rodgers all the time, right? And I think they're the best comparisons for each other historically when you talk about arm talent and feel for the game and playmaking and all that stuff. But the one thing, and the interception totals, right? As much as we talked, hey, Mahomes has gotten away with some stuff this year, the last 2 games have been as clean as it gets. No turnover-worthy plays and just taking care of the football. So the one difference between Rodgers and Mahomes, though, is Mahomes doesn't get sacked. He is a magician for not just avoiding sacks, but knowing the difference between getting rid of the ball when he needs to and then scrambling away from pressure. Rodgers has always had high sack totals pretty much until this year, but you saw it come back again yesterday. But Mahomes had one sack for no yards yesterday, more of a scramble than anything. Avoiding those negative plays, so huge for this Chiefs offense, and just an efficient outing for Mahomes, but not having the entire offensive line. The way the Bucs are playing with their defensive line could be a big factor in a couple weeks.
It's definitely a concern. When you look at what that offensive line is right now on paper, it's a huge weakness. That being said, it's been that way for a while, and all the creative things that we're talking about for this Chiefs offense and the stuff that we say that, Mahomes is incredible, but he's also helped out with a great scheme and a great bunch of playmakers and all these kinds of things. These are all things that help the offensive line as well.
Yes.
So it is a weakness. It is an area you can target and try and exploit, but it's not easy because they're protecting those guys well. And, they have Mahomes back there and all these kinds of things. So it's not just this like glaring problem so Tom Brady, right? If Tom Brady's offensive line was in ribbons, you're like, that could decide the game right here because Brady is a statue. He stands in one spot at the correct drop depth. And if you can make a mess of that, you completely banjacks this play. Mahomes, he can be anywhere. So it doesn't matter that you're going to, if you walk the guard back 7 yards into where he's supposed to be, might not matter because he's probably not there anyway.
Manipulate the pocket, get out of there. Any other takeaways from this game? We could do like our early Super Bowl preview and then get into some draft discussion, mock draft time.
I mean, I'm intrigued by where Buffalo go from here because everybody coming out of this game was like, they'll be back. Buffalo will be back. This team's heading in the right direction. They're doing a great job. This was a fantastic season. Everyone needs to have the one, the loss to really get you over the hump. Liverpool in the soccer, right? Liverpool lose the Champions League, come back the next season, win. They lose the title by like a point with one of the best totals ever. They come back the next season, they win the title. You need that defeat.
I don't know if the Bills are Liverpool, though.
This is what I'm saying. I don't – sure, it might not be a bad thing all the time to experience the loss to get back over the hump and, get there the next time. I'm not sure it's an automatic prerequisite, though. I don't think that you necessarily need that loss. And when you have it, I don't think it's an automatic that you bounce back stronger. A lot of what Buffalo rode this season is potentially a high watermark of what they achieve. Like, does Josh Allen come back next season improved because of this and play at an all-pro level all season long and elevate himself to the level of Mahomes and Rodgers in perpetuity? Or was this as good as Josh Allen gets, and next season you get a little bit worse version?
Yeah, I mean, I think unless so there's been one dynasty per decade, essentially. Patriots had back-to-back ones. Maybe the Chiefs are the next one. It is really difficult, though, to be that team that is essentially there every single year. It's this, just like last year at this time, I was like, look, the 49ers had a great season, but they're going to regress, right? I mean, a lot of things had to go right. The Bills are a really good team. I do think they've got a really great foundation in place. But the same way we said, look, Lamar Jackson's probably going to regress, at least statistically, at least output-wise last year, and he did both from a play, on-field play plus statistically. Okay, Josh Allen's probably going to regress a little bit. So even though all the pieces are there and they'll still have all the playmakers and the offensive line's fine, it's tough, right? And then you're going to have –
so hard.
The Jets are going to draft a quarterback next year. They've got a new coach. I mean, everybody around you gets better. Miami's continuing to get better. The whole AFC is a whole bunch of young – quarterbacks and then the Steelers, right? So it is everything's getting a little bit better around you as well.
I think you just automatically forget how hard it is to win to this degree on a consistent basis. Only two teams have ever gone to 3 straight conference championship games, and they've both been Andy Reid coach teams. Bill Belichick and the Patriots dynasty never went to 3 straight AFC championship games. They went to like almost every AFC championship game, but never did it 3 times in a row. It's so insanely hard.
Well, they didn't host it 3 times in a row.
Yeah, but it's so insanely hard to get back to that level every single year. And just because Buffalo did it and they've got a quarterback who's moving in the right direction, there's a lot of nice pieces in this team. It's not a given that they're going to be back next year stronger than ever, and next year is the year they can topple Kansas City and make it to the promised land. Like, this might have been their one at bat.
Here's what's interesting to me too. You're always trying to figure out how to beat the team. It's the Chiefs and the AFC, obviously. How much do you build your team? I mean, look, if you knew that there was a cornerback available who could at least slow down Tyreek Hill, or you knew that there was like a J.J. Watt athletic specimen who specialized in covering tight ends like a Travis Kelce, if you knew that guy existed, you'd draft him anyway. But how much does a team like the Bills, knowing the AFC is going through the Chiefs, how much do they try to build their team around, hey, we got to slow the Chiefs? The same way the Raiders are like, man, we're going to try to match the Chiefs with Henry Ruggs, with our speed, or the Chargers bring in Brandon Staley to be the guy to slow down the Chiefs. How much do you think about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid all offseason?
Yeah, I mean, remember when Randy Moss burst onto the scene in '98, and the next year the Green Bay Packers drafted like 3 cornerbacks. Okay, but what do you even draft to take away Tyreek Hill?
I don't know.
That's kind of my issue, is that I don't. When you were saying before, who is the corner with the skill set to try and neutralize what he does? There isn't one. There's nobody that moves like him in the NFL. Nobody. There's guys that are maybe as fast as him, though frankly, probably not. There's nobody as quick as he is. There's just nobody with that combination of speed and quickness and like that springy ability to like elevate, win catches and win jump balls, those kinds of things. What do you draft to try and stop that?
3 corners? And you allot them all to him.
Or like a pass rusher, because again, like, we're not going to stop that. So let's try and get after the quarterback more.
But the pass rusher's not going to do anything either. Yeah, I mean, look, the Bills, I like their foundation and everything, but I think your point is to assume that the Bills are going to be, we'll be in the AFC Championship again next year is a big assumption. All right, let's go to, do you want to talk Super Bowl a little bit?
No, that's next show. Well, not even next show.
It's 2 shows from now.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
No early
patience.
preview, no early thoughts.
I mean, it's a nice matchup.
Oh,
yeah.
Really nice matchup. A lot of red for the second year in a row.
There's uniform combinations could be tricky.
Do the Bucs? I think it's the NFC's year to wear the home jersey. I think it would be weird if the Bucs wore their road jersey in their home stadium.
It would. Maybe they go with that all pewter thing that they have.
I like how teams go back and they're like, when we wore this uniform, things were bad. I think all pewter was when they got destroyed by the Saints, wasn't it?
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's off.
I wasn't paying attention to what uniform they were wearing when they lost.
Chiefs wore red last year.
Okay.
I believe, right? I assume they'll be in white. They'll be in their all white. The first all white Super Bowl Chiefs uniform for Mahomes. How about that? Yeah, good uniform talk. All right, we'll have our Super Bowl preview in a couple weeks. I think it's an incredible matchup. It's going to be great. Let's get to my mock draft, Sam.
All right.
It's draft time. This mock draft, I usually do my mock draft saying, here's what I would do. I think I did mostly that. I also did some thought exercises. And
thought exercise.
I mean, it's just like there was so many different.
Like a think piece mock?
No, I mean, there was a couple picks I don't know if I would definitely make if I was the general manager, but I was like, all right, this is fine.
The first question is, did you do any insane trades?
I did not allow myself to do trades, which hamstrings you in general. Like the Dolphins picked at 3. Is Deshaun Watson going to be in the mix, and is that actually going to go back to the Texans? I thought that the Colts pick at 23. Again, we'll talk about it on the daily. I think the Colts, they flip a first rounder for Matthew Stafford, and everybody's happy.
There's potentially
but I picked
at least
4 the Colts in this mock.
Right. There's potentially at least 3 pretty high-end starters available in the NFL through trade. The Colts absolutely are coming away with one of them, right? There's no way they don't roll into 2021 season with a viable starting quarterback that they have traded for, right?
No, I think you're right. But in this particular mock, I drafted Mac Jones for them at quarterback, even knowing that they might not even have that pick. So it's kind of like, if they don't have a quarterback in free agency, let's look to the future. Mac Jones could be a good guy for this franchise.
Okay.
So do you have any so at the top I go Trevor Lawrence.
You did. Yeah.
And then I think the biggest decision here is going to be QB2 for the Jets. Is it Zach Wilson from BYU? Is it Justin Fields from Ohio State? And
you went Wilson.
I went Zach Wilson. I'm agreeing with Mike Renner, but I'm agreeing with what I saw on tape too. I like Wilson as QB2 in this class.
Fields for me is like the trickiest evaluation of the top quarterbacks at the moment. There's a lot of questions I have watching his game generally. A huge amount of what they do in that offense, he's very rarely stressed. Like, the entire offense is really simple. It's drop back, wait for your primary read to uncover, and then just hit him with the ball. And he's really good at that, but that's generally not quarterbacking at the NFL level. Like, all of this stuff we talk about, you have to do an awful lot more than that, and that's 101. And to be in the NFL, you need 201 and whatever. It's a lot more complicated than that. And then the other thing is, but working against that, we've also seen some bad play from him as well, which, is part of it. But working against that is he does make a lot of this stuff look absurdly easy. And I used to think that was a bad thing for a prospect, that if you make it look easy at the college level, you're probably not going to have that luxury at the NFL level where everybody's better and a better athlete and bigger, stronger, faster, and that's when you get exposed. But I think over the last 10 years or so, I've started to flip that and think that, you know what, if you make it look that easy at the college level, ultimately that kind of translates, and you tend to have the same physical gifts at the NFL level and have a similar ability to just make it look easy. And, Tyreek Hill is a good example of that, a guy that's just a freak athlete. And you're a freak athlete in college and in the NFL, and he makes it look easy. And Cam Newton was another example of that, a guy who, you look at what he was doing in college, and you're like, well, there's no way that translates. But it turns out if you're larger than the defensive end trying to chase you down and faster than him, it doesn't matter. Like, you still get that working at the NFL level. So I think there's something to this idea that Fields just looks a superior athlete to most of the people he's dealing with, and that will probably be true at the NFL level as well, at which point a lot of his failings might not matter.
Yeah, he is a tough evaluation because, as you said, there's a lot of open stuff in the Ohio State offense, but then there's other plays where he's just slow to see the field. The same thing we just described about Allen in his game against the Chiefs. But then Fields goes up against Clemson in that game and absolutely tears it up. He didn't have any of that. And I think the processing speed stuff. So when I watched Fields, I got Carson Wentz in college type of vibes. And I know coming off the year that Wentz just had, people are going to get scared to death. But let's not forget Carson Wentz has been an above-average quarterback for the majority of his career. And I think Fields had some of those vibes because Wentz played really slow at times, but he'd make up for it with the arm talent, had some rushing ability. Fields has all of that. But I put him at 4 to the Falcons, which I do think if you're slotting Fields anywhere, putting him with Arthur Smith and putting him behind Matt Ryan for a year, not the worst thing in the world for Fields to sit, develop, and a good plan for the Falcons, I think, to just roll with Matt Ryan for one more year and then transition to a Justin Fields. So that's where I went with Fields at number 4 to the Falcons.
Fields' postseason was phenomenal. I mean, not just the Clemson game obviously was incredible. That was a Michael Jordan flu game kind of legacy building thing. But also, I don't think he came out of the national championship looking badly either. I think if anything, that helped his legacy. Ohio State was just massively overmatched by Alabama, but Fields, I think, played pretty well. If you're coming out of this season, the 2 toughest games, effectively, the best competition that he faced, he didn't win both the games, but I think he would have come out of both those games with an enhanced draft status.
So then going Wilson at number 2, I remember when Renner first made the move on the board, I was like, man, I really like Zach Wilson. And I hadn't really dove into the throw-by-throw yet, but I was like, I don't know if I could put him over Fields. When I watched Wilson, though, I agreed with him as QB2 in this group. I just think he has some of that playmaking feel that Fields has it too, and Lawrence, but Wilson has the feel that all the new quarterbacks that are coming into the league have. He also has that, just flick of the wrist, velocity and touch. And I like the arm talent combination with Wilson. I like the accuracy, and I like just the feel that he has for making plays. So I really think from Trevor Lawrence, I know we're talking about him as the best prospect in years. I don't know how people look back on Andrew Luck's career because he didn't really win anything, but I think Lawrence ends up as an Andrew Luck or better type of prospect, which is outstanding. It's still outstanding. Trevor Lawrence I think he's going to succeed. I think Justin Fields is going to succeed. I think Wilson is too. I really think we're talking about 3 quarterbacks. Put them in the right situation, they're going to be fine.
You are always, a little bit optimistic at these things.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I don't like Trey Lance that much.
You are always on the optimistic side of the spectrum of quarterbacks. Always.
I disagree.
Huh. Okay.
I look for their path to success.
Yes.
So if they
You know
get
what
there,
that's
I
called?
can always point back.
Optimism.
No, I lay out what their path to success is and what their skill set is.
Yes. What you're doing is defining the way that you're optimistic with these quarterbacks. That's the way you are. Like, there's no point fighting against that.
All right, I've got more reservations about Trey Lance, and I put him, Sam, number 7 to the Detroit Lions. This is what I'm saying. Like I initially had the Lions taking my favorite pick, Micah Parsons.
Yes.
Right? The actual knee-biting, ankle-biting, hard-nosed linebacker. Micah Parsons to the Lions feels like the perfect fit.
It was the PFF Daily, right? On the Daily, we talked about the coaching hires. And, Dan Campbell, there's a lot of talk about all the coaching hires, and a lot of them have trended towards this sort of young, exciting, X's and O's, vibrant coach, who's the next good thing, Brandon Staley, whatever, incredible defense first year. And then there's the Dan Campbell hiring, right? And it's like the dude's introductory press conference starts talking about chewing people's kneecaps off on the way up, and it was just like this tale of grit and old school football mentality. Now, to be fair, it was like edited because there was some smart stuff in there as well about, things that don't make him look ridiculous.
He also said he was speaking to the people of Detroit and trying to make a point.
So
like, you've been knocked down. We're going to come back.
There was some smart stuff in there that wasn't necessarily edited in and all these kinds of things. But one of the things we said in the Daily is that, look, he's being portrayed as this like meathead, old school grit coach, which is just the opposite direction that everybody else is trending in. And this is why Detroit is Detroit. On the other hand, the guy has been like learning at the feet of Sean Payton for a number of years now, who is one of the smartest offensive-minded coaches in the NFL. Maybe Dan Campbell actually has an awful lot more to him than we are giving him credit for from the outside looking in. On the other hand, there are some things there in terms of hirings, in terms of how this thing is assembling around him, that make you think that, the one thing that Dan Campbell wants from this draft is like the toughest player he can find.
Let me connect those dots then for you. Lions at 7, I gave him Trey Lance. The PFF draft guide is out right now, Sam. And if you guys have your draft guide and you open to page 21 out of 477, that's right, there's 477 pages in the draft guide, which is the best draft guide we've ever put out. It does get better every single year. Page 21 is the Trey Lance page.
Okay.
And Mike Renner's NFL player comparison, Taysom Hill with arm talent.
There you go. That's toughness.
With arm talent. And I could see, I had to rip up my mock because, I like the hard copy. I had to rip it up and redo it because on Saturday night, the Lions said they're moving on from Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
So I initially had Trey Lance going at number 12 to the San Francisco 49ers. Now I moved him up to number 7 to the Lions. I took Micah Parsons out. And then I see Renner's comp today with the draft guide. I'm like, all right, some of this is making sense here. The Lions have a 6-year contract for Dan Campbell. And he just learned under Sean Payton, as you said. I think he's going to want to run the ball. I think he has time to develop a quarterback.
Yes.
And Trey Lance can add value as a runner. He does have that arm talent, and he does get. I think he might be a 2 or 3 year project, and I think it matches up really, really well with the Lions now.
I think that's kind of harsh on Taysom Hill. I think his arm's fine. He's got arm talent.
Well, you'll have to take that up with Renner.
Okay. I'll put a note there. I want to talk about the first wide receiver off the board because you went Jamar Chase over Devontae Smith.
I did.
I don't like that.
Why not? But wait. First, I want to tell everybody where they can get this draft guide.
Okay.
Because we've got deals here. Super Bowl 25. Super Bowl 25. You get 25% off any subscription, whether it's Edge or Elite. So Elite is what you get. That's the big package. You definitely want Elite, but you can get the draft guide with Edge. Super Bowl 25. You get 25% off. And the draft guide has over 150 player profiles. As I mentioned, 477 pages, and this promo code is only active through the Monday after the Super Bowl. That's 2 weeks from today. So act now. Super Bowl 25, 25% off. Go get your draft guide hot off the presses. Now tell me why I'm wrong with Jamar Chase as the top wide receiver off the board.
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I like Devontae Smith a lot and would take him first. I'm not declaring you wrong, Steve. I'm just raising the possibility that you've ballsed it up.
Ballsed it up. Banjaxed it even.
Yeah.
Banjak's my wide receiver. Well, I think people are going to be upset about either Jamar Chase going off the board first. I'll explain why him in a second. Jalen Waddle I gave to the Giants at 11 ahead of Devontae Smith as well.
See, the
fellow Alabama receiver.
This is a repeat of last year, right? Last year, Jerry Jeudy, the demonstrably superior player, was taken behind Henry Ruggs, who was fast, right?
Speed, baby.
This year, we're going to do the same thing again. Devontae Smith, who has been the best player of that team for the last 2 years, is going to get taken behind Jalen Waddle, who is fast. Now, to be fair, I think Jalen Waddle is better than Henry Ruggs, but I also think Devontae Smith is better than Jerry Jeudy. So,
whoa, you think Devontae Smith is better than Jerry Jeudy?
I do. Yeah.
All right, we got a one-off here.
So we're making the same
mistake. Send it to social media. Sam's going to talk about You love Jerry Jeudy. We've got memes about how much you love Jerry Jeudy. You like Devontae more?
Yes, this is why I'm saying he should be the first receiver off the board.
Oh, I gotta rethink now because you're a pretty good evaluator of receivers.
We are making the same mistake again, and by we I mean you. In addition to other people that will be making the same mistake later as well, just by the way they operate.
Too small, can't handle press.
Yeah,
too slow.
So, okay. Whatever about the Jamar Chase going number one. I can see an argument for that, right? He had a phenomenal season as well. But you can't. How can you put him behind Waddle? Stop it. Stop that now.
I overthought fit when it came to the receivers. Or I thought about fit. And honestly, it's the same mistake the Eagles just admitted that they made. Not mistake, but the reasoning where they went with Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson in the draft is they thought that Jalen Reagor's fit was better for the offense. And look, I don't know that they're necessarily wrong. They also got blinded by speed. They wanted to add speed. I wanted Jamar Chase at number 5 to pair him with Joe Burrow because I've seen those guys work together. And I said, listen, Bengals fans, just because you didn't get Penei Sewell in this mock draft, you're going to get a guy who's going to get open. Jamar Chase reminds me of a bigger Antonio Brown with his ability to win at the catch point and just, it doesn't look like a dynamic athlete, but just knows how to get open. That's Jamar Chase. I like that. I'm fine with that. Jalen Waddle, I like the deep speed, and I think Daniel Jones, one of the most efficient deep ball throwers in the league this year, can use another downfield threat like Jalen Waddle. So I'm going for the home run there, a guy that I think has 16, 17 yards per reception type of potential at the next level.
I don't think it's a bad fit or pick at all unless Devontae Smith happens to be on the board at the time, in which case it's crazy. Henry Ruggs is not a bad first-round pick in isolation. It's just picking him over Jerry Jeudy is a mistake.
All right, so Devontae Smith, I ended up having him go 15 to the New England Patriots. Yeah, it's probably a little bit low for Devontae. We'll see what happens in the next mock. How high would you take Devontae Smith? Where do you like his fit? Bengals at 5 or in the mix. Would you take him at 3 if you're the Miami Dolphins and reunite him with Tua? If you're the Dolphins, I chose Penei Sewell at number 3 because they can't trade out in my scenario. I'd rather see them trade. But they get Sewell at left tackle. We flip Austin Jackson to the right side, continue to build that offensive line. Would you go Devontae Smith as high as 3 to the Dolphins?
So I think quarterbacks go number 1 and number 2. I think that's pretty much set in stone. Number 3 is the first pick where there will be a question mark of who comes next, and I think most people would put Penei Sewell there. I don't hate that, but we've talked before about the value of wide receivers versus other positions in football and moving the needle in terms of winning games. I think you can definitely construct an argument that a number 1 legitimate wideout is a more valuable boost to the Miami Dolphins than a tackle. That then becomes the question of what is your degree of certainty with these things, right? This is why Quentin Nelson was propelled so high up draft boards, because the value of the certainty you have that he will be a superstar is worth propelling him further up than a guard should normally be drafted. Penei Sewell will be the same thing, but a tackle. Everybody is going to be absolutely certain that this guy is a nailed-on Pro Bowl left tackle. And that has value over wide receivers who are still more of a crapshoot, because as much as you're confident in them, any given wide receiver can have a Jalen Reagor rookie season and look like a miss right off the bat.
I think it's a lot like the debate we had last year with Chase Young against whoever Jeffrey Okudah, whoever the other top corners are. There's certainty, I think, in predicting the performance of the trench players. There's uncertainty in predicting receivers and corners. There's also scarcity. There is not there's unlikely to be a Penei Sewell caliber tackle in the draft in the second round.
Correct.
There is a chance that as great as Devontae Smith is or as great as Jamar Chase is, that there is a receiver who can produce just as well as him late first or into the second round. Just look at the last couple drafts.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown, second round. Justin Jefferson, not the top wide receiver off the board. That happens at other positions as well, but it happens a lot at receiver and corner. So I think you're going to hear a lot from PFF in general over the next few months, and you're going to see mocks, and the forecast is going to do it, and maybe Renner and Austin are going to do it on 2-for-1 drafts. A lot of receivers going off the board early and high, and receivers and corners and all that stuff. But there is an argument to be made for the certainty and the scarcity of those positions instead of just going after chasing war, so to speak.
Right, and
PFF
for that,
terms.
if you're going to say Penei Sewell is the number 3 pick to Miami, assuming they keep that pick, I wouldn't fight too hard. If you made that pick a wide receiver instead, I wouldn't hate that either. I think whoever is at number 3 has a pretty good luxury of being able to do that, to choose between a potentially generational talent tackle and the best wide receiver off the board, whoever you think it is. It's one of those great spots in the draft where you can't really go wrong. Obviously you can if you get a guy and he busts. But my point is, in theory, that's a great spot to be in because I think you have a couple of ways you could go, each of which would be good on paper. So I think you're in the right spot in terms of where the first wide receiver comes off the board, number 5 to the Bengals. I just think you've picked the wrong guy.
And the Bengals, as much as I say it's tough to get that tackle in the second round, I think the Bengals can get creative in how they build their offensive line without necessarily getting a Penei Sewell where they're at number 5. So I struggled with the Eagles at 6. I didn't know which way to go there. I went cornerback Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. Pair him with Darius Slay. Farley's our number 1 corner. Incredible athleticism and quote-unquote upside. You got to put quotes on that one. But, man, he's got all the tools. Farley at 6. Patrick Surtain, a little different type of player, just really good, technically sound. There's a lot of
sons.
A lot of sons in this. Patrick Surtain's son, of course. Asante Samuel's son. A lot of sons in this. J.C. Horn. That was Joe Horn's kid, right? A lot of the top corners. But I put Patrick Surtain at 10 to the Cowboys. I think that's going to be a common match as well. Surtain playing in the Dan Quinn scheme, I think is a really nice matchup there.
Talk to me about Kyle Pitts. You have him at number 8 to the Carolina Panthers.
I was going to mention, he was one of my favorite picks of the draft.
Yeah.
I look at the Panthers. They spent every pick on defense last year. And they still, my theory of just flood the field with playmakers. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, they're going to lose Curtis Samuel likely to free agency. But if you have Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and you add Kyle Pitts to the mix, boom. I love that trio. Defensive coordinator's got to figure out how to stop those three guys.
Not just that, but I love bringing a Kyle Pitts and pairing him with Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator in Carolina.
They'll use him, man.
That's what I'm saying. Kyle Pitts, I think, has the potential to be one of the best playmakers in the entire draft. I do think that you would certainly want to see him land somewhere where an offensive coordinator is creative and understands how to use positionless players effectively, right?
Oof, yeah.
Instead of just saying, here is a tight end who isn't going to be great at blocking.
Like if you went to Bruce Arians' scheme, Bruce would be like, he's a tight end. His job's to block.
Right. That I would not love. If you just say, here's your new tight end. He's not great at blocking. Have fun. And you try and take advantage of him as much as possible as a receiving option from your inline tight end plays. That, I mean, it would work. He would be okay at it. I just don't love it, right? But if you pair him with a guy who actually understands how to make use of athletes in space and not pigeonhole them into a specific position and skill set and set of responsibilities, like Kyle Pitts could be freaking amazing.
Yeah, he's one of my best fits in this entire draft. Pitts to the Panthers at 8. I'll let you look through and see if there's anything that looks crazy to you, but a couple other picks I wanted to highlight. 17 and 18 were two of my favorites. Las Vegas Raiders at 17 gave him Christian Barmore, the interior defensive lineman from Alabama. I think he's the best interior rusher that's come out in a few years now. And
he was a beast in the national championship game.
Yeah, I mean he reminds me a little bit of Gerald McCoy with his get off, but also strength. It's not just athleticism; it's also the way he engages blocks and is able to push the pocket a little bit and just strong hands. I think that's a good fit for the Raiders. And then JOK Owusu Koramara, the
Well
linebacker / safety out of Notre Dame. You talk about positionless football. This guy plays overhang linebacker safety for Notre Dame, sending him to Brian Flores and the Dolphins, given where their weaknesses are and how they've restructured their pass defense, I think is a great fit. He's one of those guys, like in Isaiah Simmons, a team has to have a plan. How am I going to use this guy? And JOK, I think, is a great fit for the Dolphins.
I like it. The only other quarterback you have going off is Mac Jones at 21 to Indianapolis, who, as we've mentioned, probably won't be using that pick, assuming they've traded it for a veteran quarterback. But is Mac Jones the only other quarterback that you think can go in the first round from this group?
I think Kyle Trask could from Florida. I mean, he did some really nice things at Florida. I think Kyle Trask is a little limited.
You're a Florida guy.
I am. I don't have my Florida.
I know it's gone.
I threw away my Florida water bottle. I enjoyed watching Kyle Trask play. It was nice watching Florida have competent quarterback play for the first time since Tebow. But with
competent quarterback play and Tebow in the same sentence. Wow.
In college.
Yeah, I know. This is why college is college.
Yes. Trask, I don't think has the velocity, arm talent. The thing that works in his favor is the fact that he's played so little football. But I don't know if the NFL is going to look at Trask, especially the way his season ended against Oklahoma. You kind of saw some of the velocity issues and everything. I think Trask is more of a second rounder. We'll see what happens and go from there. We'll see what the senior. He's at the Senior Bowl and that will be big for him. And then Mac Jones, for a guy that was so productive, is he too low? Should he be considered a top 10 pick? I think there's a legitimate debate. But I keep coming back to this. I don't know how much recency bias I'm going to be swayed by, but all of the recent success stories, guys that have a little bit better velocity and playmaking that Mac Jones just doesn't really have.
That is going to be one of the stories of this entire draft right now. Is you're right. Every one of these recent success stories at quarterback has been a toolsy type of player, and the ones that would normally be labeled as project quarterbacks to an extent have almost all paid off. And not just paid off, but they paid off huge. Like Deshaun Watson had some legitimate concerns about his play as a genuine his ability to sort of read, process, work beyond the first read, actually evaluate a defense and figure out where to go with the ball. And A, it hasn't mattered when he had those problems earlier in his career. B, he's taken massive strides in that area, and none more so than this year, where he became like a complete processor from a quarterback position and is now as good as any quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes was just like this big bag of chaos at Texas Tech and is now the greatest quarterback the game has ever seen. Josh Allen was the IKEA quarterback, just this box of tools that if you could figure out how to put it all together, you would get your nice TV stand or whatever it is. He is now a perfect TV stand housing your nice fancy plasma in the corner of your room. All of these guys have come good.
TV stand that's going to lose 18 yards a pop every now and again.
Almost all of these guys have come good. Daniel Jones, I guess, is a little bit of a question mark right now, but has probably already exceeded a lot of people's expectations.
He's not as toolsy as the other guys, though.
Okay, fair enough. Whatever. My point is that almost all of these guys have panned out in recent times. So does that change how you evaluate quarterbacks? You now need to say that in order to work at the NFL level and be really good, you can't just be a statuesque Tom Brady style of quarterback. You need to be able to create outside of structure and move to the flat and outrun, a 300-pound guy chasing you down. You can't have this Christian Ponder syndrome of not understanding that you can no longer outrun a 330-pound man. You need to actually be able to outrun that guy and make some plays in the flat every now and again.
I think they're all fair points. I think Tom Brady's going to the Super Bowl. Can you be a Tom Brady? Sure. Can you be a Drew Brees? Can you be a Peyton Manning? Sure. But you have to be that good. You have to be as good as they are at processing and accuracy at all levels and all of that stuff. So you're saying, okay, for Mac Jones to succeed, is there this floor where he could just run an offense and hit open throws like he did at Alabama? Sure. But is the ceiling limited? And should you be chasing the ceiling? We talk here all the time the value of a top 8 to 10 quarterback. Can Mac Jones ever be there? Whereas Trey Lance might take a while, but could get there. So I think these are legitimate.
And when we talk about the draft, is all about playing percentages, right? As a default position, you should probably assume that the person you're looking at is not Tom Brady. Yes.
Oh, yeah, right.
As a statuesque pocket passer, you can still succeed and be really good at the NFL level, but you have to be basically the greatest quarterback to ever play. As a default starting position, you should assume that a first-round prospect is not the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Then proceed from there.
I think that's a fair starter. All right, let's wrap it up with two more picks that I really liked. A couple wide receivers in the 20s. Jacksonville Jaguars. So they already drafted Trevor Lawrence. They get Kadarius Toney from Florida. Mm-hmm. And then the Ravens, I gave them Rondale Moore from Purdue. I think so. Kadarius Toney at Florida, you've got Urban Meyer there. And Urban's going to look and say, there's my Percy Harvin, right? And you've got Toney. You've got DJ Chark, who's a legitimate deep threat, and then Laviska Shenault. So now you've got – Laviska can be a true actual receiver, but he's got some gimmick player in him, right?
Yep.
Toney was a gimmick player at Florida, and then this year became a good all-around slot. So you have weapons to play around with if you're Urban Meyer. I like the Kadarius Toney fit to the Jags, and I like Rondale Moore going to the Ravens.
And Rondale Moore is the one I want to talk about because it's my favorite player comp that I've had in years because I stole it from somebody. I can't remember who gave it to me. I'm sorry if he's a listener. Great. It's one of the best player comps that anybody has ever come up with. You know why?
Why?
Because it's a rugby player.
Oh, here we go.
Rondale Moore is Jerry Tuwai.
Oh,
right?
Of course he is.
Who was a Fiji rugby, a sevens player, not even the full 15-man game.
Everybody knows that.
A sevens player. And if you literally, there's highlights on YouTube. Google Jerry Tuwai, Tuwai, I think. It's Rondale Moore. And one of the reasons why is he has this thing that special athletes have, and so few of them, where every now and again they understand that in order to go forward, you should take a quick step backwards.
Best footwork in the game, according to this YouTube video.
There you go. See? His highlight reel is full of this stuff, right? And Rondale Moore has it as well, where in order to generate this bit of space, Barry Sanders did this a lot as well, Dante Hall. In order to generate a little bit of space in front of you, if you take a half step backwards, everybody moves out of your way. Like they just adjust to the wrong place, and then you jump into the gap that they've all just vacated. Rondale Moore does that throughout his career at Purdue. It's just, and I don't think you can teach that. I think it's just an instinctive thing that these guys understand that if you just take a little half step back, bam, explode into the space, gone, 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, Tuwai looks, Dante Hall's a pretty good, different body type, but good proxy here.
Yeah.
You like Rondale as a first rounder?
I do.
So I like him going to the Ravens because, again, not that the Ravens are only going to draft somebody that can, handle an end around and all that stuff, but I think Rondale can be a true wide receiver, but also be a part of their run game, right? And
he makes a lot of
flood
sense.
The field with those types.
He makes a lot of sense within that offense. There's part of me that thinks that, look, I don't know how much Rondale Moore might be a better fit for Baltimore's offense than what I'm suggesting, but part of me wants to see a sort of prototypical number one X receiver in that system, just to see what does it do. Like, does that guy get lost? And if he isn't just a gadget player, you're not, the offense isn't capable of maximizing the threat of a guy like that.
Like if Stephon Diggs was...
Or Julio Jones, right? If you plugged Julio Jones into that offense, what does it look like?
I think it depends on... It would look like Julio at Alabama. A lot of run blocking. But there would be games. It's just like we joke about, hey, there's a couple games where Derrick Henry's well worth it. He's going to run for 200. There'll be some games where the Ravens need a Julio Jones type.
Like on a let's assume Rondale Moore becomes the NFL player that, his college suggests that he will be. Is that a better fit for that offense overall, or does the Julio Jones addition to that system unlock a level of passing proficiency that isn't there right now?
Yeah, I think the Ravens, this offseason is going to be about them making a move at the receiver position. Maybe it's Rondale Moore in the draft. By the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have to change their pick. I gave them Asante Samuel. I think he's a good zone corner, good fit for them. Marquise Pouncey announced, or is going to announce, being reported, that he's going to retire. So the Steelers.
Who's the Hall of Fame center in this draft?
Creed Humphrey, probably.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe Creed Humphrey.
But the great thing is it doesn't matter because
the Steelers are going to...
As soon as the Steelers draft him, he will be a future Hall of Fame center.
The Steelers have had like 4 centers in the last 70 years. They're going to draft another center, and he's going to be a Pro Bowler for the next 10 years. They're going to draft him at number 24 overall. The two other real quick picks. Green Bay Packers, I gave Tyson Campbell, big long corner out of Georgia, to replace Kevin King before the Kevin King. I did this before yesterday.
What would make you think that Kevin King needs replacing?
Well, he's hitting free agency.
Okay.
Yesterday happened.
Of course.
Campbell could be a nice little fit. And I mentioned during the Chiefs game, Elijah Molden, one of my favorite players in the draft. He might be more of a second-round type of player, but corner, safety, hybrid, best slot corner grade that we've given since Mike Hilton. He's to me, he's somewhere between Mike Hilton and Tyrann Mathieu as a player skill set. And I think if you get a player like that, is he going to be one of the most top 30 most valuable players in this draft? Absolutely, if that's what you get. Going to Kansas City to potentially replace Mathieu in the future. It's
ironic when you think about player position value and what you should and shouldn't take in the first round. Like, that caliber of player is seen as a fairly people don't draft those guys in the first round. They absolutely should be. Conversely, why would you take a running back in the first round, and yet that's where they went last year? This would be a significantly smarter pick in terms of value and chance of paying you back than drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round was.
And as expected, no running backs in the first round for me. Travis Etienne's the top running back on our draft board, but I didn't put him up there. But I did have Elijah Molden because I love him. Mm-hmm. So that's it. That's my mock. Go check it out, pff.com. We'll have a lot more draft coverage.
Worst mock ever, officially.
Thank you. Oh, it will be. Mm-hmm. Look, there's some picks that I don't love, but there's some I do, even though I made all of them. So go check it out, pff.com. Let me know. And don't forget, Super Bowl 25, Super Bowl 25, 25% off any PFF product. Now is the time, my friends. Go get that draft guide, 477 pages of goodness. There'll be even more updates further along, so you might as well just get it right now while we have this deal, 25% off any PFF subscription. So rest of, I think Thursday we're going to try to get Brad on here, Sam, to discuss free agent contracts and fits.
Who is Brad, Steve?
Brad Spielberger. He is the new formerly of Over the Cap, fresh out of law school. Wow. And Tulane Law.
So he's smart.
Yeah, he's smart. And he's going to be here. He's been added to our the PFF team. He's done a ton of great content over at pff.com, but he's going to come on here and he's done contract projections. He kind of gets these, uses some PFF numbers to get into a ballpark of where guys are going to get paid. We're going to talk some fits and some, just what guys are going to get paid in the free agent market. So we'll get him on here Thursday to discuss some of that stuff. So the next couple of weeks, we got a lot of free agency stuff, do some more draft coverage. It's Senior Bowl week, which is great. So you got some Senior Bowl practices to check out, NFL Network. This is your time, Sam.
I was so excited that Devontae Smith was going to go to the Senior Bowl. I was like, wow, we are going to see this guy destroy everybody for a week of one-on-ones, post the best PFF grade we've ever seen. And I was like, how is he going to, he just wrecked his finger or thumb in the national title game. How is he going to the Senior Bowl? Of course, he's only going to do the interviews and stuff. He's not working out or anything. So briefly, I was really excited about Devontae Smith at the Senior Bowl and then realized that he's not actually doing anything there.
Real quick, Devontae Smith, is he better than Calvin Ridley? Because you liked Judy better than Ridley.
Yes. I mean, by definition, therefore.
I'm just trying to remember and reiterate. So you like Devontae Smith, then Judy,
to
then
me,
Ridley.
was Calvin Ridley at 120% speed. And Devontae Smith is better than Jerry Jeudy. He's a more complete player. Therefore, he is the best of the three. Coming out. I mean, obviously, Ridley is elevated so far in the NFL.
I can't wait for more of your draft takes. It's draft take season, Sam. Can't wait to hear more of them. So, all right, we'll see you guys on Thursday. We'll have a lot more off-season discussion, some free agency, and all-around NFL talk. Go check out the PFF Daily as well. Thanks, everybody. See you Thursday.